What's up, everyone? We're here for post-game Locked On Bucks as the big game Bucks get it done again, this time in Utah. The first time in 750 years the Bucks have won Utah. That's an incredible achievement. Brook Lopez is back. Giannis played well again, so there's plenty to talk about here. Jrue Holiday in the fourth quarter. We're going to break it all down, so let's get started.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bucks. I'm your host, Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show Monday to Friday and also find my work over at ESPN. And joining me, the founder of BrewHoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen of every single day. And by the way, just need to make mention of what time we're recording this. Now, I didn't realize that the clock's changed in the US. You guys are doing it a couple of weeks earlier. In Australia, we are really dragging out the daylight savings process. So we've got a couple more weeks of daylight savings. So this is it nearly 1 a.m., Frank?
It is 12:49 Central Time here.
All right, I'm going to need you to fire up, okay? If just because it's 1 o'clock doesn't mean you need to be low on energy here.
There's no way I'd be here if the Bucks had lost this game. I'd be sleeping soundly. But when a once in a lifetime, once in a generation event like winning in Utah happens, that is worthy of staying up to podcast. And I don't know. I see the numbers of people who listen to us blather about basketball, and it is humbling, and we appreciate everybody listening. I don't know why thousands of people do it when we talk about these games, but it's awesome, and I think we obviously love talking about games, especially when they're wins. And I'm sure that Bucks fans are going to wake up on Tuesday morning feeling very different than they usually feel after Utah games, and a big night, not just a win in Utah, but a return of Brook Lopez. Certainly a lot of storylines to come out of this game, and one that we had to stay up late to talk about this one.
Well, you mentioned ESPN. I just quickly want to say, I mentioned this tweet that I had on the weekend about Klay Thompson, and people were very angry. And one of the comments that I got back that I enjoyed the most, and I wish I could give this person credit, but I don't have it up. Someone said, "Oh my goodness, this is what ESPN's done to you already," which I thought was honestly pretty humorous stuff. So I enjoyed that. But you're right. I used to joke going back a few seasons ago, and this was prior to the Bucks making the NBA Finals, and it still felt like such a far-fetched idea that the Bucks would reach the finals, that they were fortunate that Phoenix were a terrible team, because if they ever got Phoenix in the NBA Finals, there's no chance they're winning the title. Now, thankfully, they did, and they came up with a big win in Phoenix in particular, but Utah's kind of been in the same boat. I was always like, geez, you wouldn't want to be rolling into Utah having not won there since 2001 for the NBA Finals, but they broke that tonight, which is really nice. 117-111 was the final. We can get into all of this, but let's start with Brook Lopez. He came back onto the floor. I don't believe he played in the first quarter at all, but started the second quarter on the floor. I tweeted about it. He was shaking his head in disgust within the first 2 minutes, which we missed. And now this did come after an air ball, which could be disguised as a pass to Jevon Carter under the basket. He caught it cleanly. But after that, honestly, Frank, I thought he was very enthusiastic, very physical defensively, racked up the fouls. And I think part of it was just he was so excited to be out there. But he generally did have some pretty damn good defensive moments in this game. And I think above all else, I was looking to see how he moved. Every time he got a bump trying to box out or something, I was looking at him to see if he was okay. But for the most part, Brook Lopez looked pretty good in this game. He only played 14 and a half minutes, which seems about right, but he looked to be moving pretty well, and that's all I think we could ask from the first game.
Yeah, I mean, Brook, even before the injury, moved at a somewhat glacial pace to begin with. So to try to eyeball, whether he's moving faster or slower is kind of tough. I think probably the best barometer is going to be, we're used to him, despite his glacial movements, dunking and playing above the rim at times around the basket. And so I think that'll be an interesting to watch for is, does he still look to have not just the physical ability up, but just the confidence to really play aggressively around the basket. He's obviously got a ton of finesse. I mean, he really doesn't need to, break that out too much, but
Yeah.
Thinking back to like the game 5 against Atlanta last year when he was throwing down alley-oops all over the place, or that huge dunk in game 6 of the clinching game last year against Phoenix, where in the third quarter Bucks are making that run and Jrue has that nice dump off and he comes in for just that monster dunk. He is an enormous man. He has extremely long arms. And I thought right away, Bucks give up 39 points in the first quarter. And again, Utah hit 10 threes. I thought the Bucks engagement and pressure at the point of attack was lacking for large segments of that first quarter. It felt like a very kind of like, all right, Jrue get over a screen, Giannis will drop, and hopefully they'll miss shots. That kind of felt like the vibe early, and the Jazz were not missing shots. And it was, I think, maybe a little coincidental that the Jazz started missing more shots when Brook was on the floor. But I thought overall, Wes Matthews came in and I thought did a really nice job just putting a lot more pressure on the ball than the Bucks starters did. Jevon Carter had another really important contribution tonight, even with George Hill back. And I do think Brook, just his size around the basket. We saw Giannis defending Rudy for long stretches, including to start the game and including down the stretch. And I thought at times we saw sort of the limitations of Giannis going up against a guy as enormous as Rudy. He's one of the few guys who can make Giannis look small. And there were a few plays where Giannis trying to play drop coverage against Rudy and Conley or Rudy and Mitchell. That's just really hard. It's just really hard to do. And Giannis can make spectacular plays, but again, that was just really difficult. So I thought, Brook gave them some nice minutes. I think he was +8 in the second quarter. They go on their big run to kind of turn the game around. It felt like going into halftime, felt like the Bucks were sitting in really good shape. And then we remembered that third quarters exist. And unfortunately, the third quarter happened and then some. But Brook comes back and, I think there were some shakier moments from the Bucks in general in that third quarter, even in the second half of it. But Jrue Holiday in particular really kind of steadied the ship. And obviously very nice to see Jrue. I mean, to get 15 minutes out of Brook, I mean, what do you expect from him in the regular season? Normally like 25. To get 15 from him in the first time in 5-6 months since he last played, and looking the way he did, I think you'll definitely take that. Hopefully he's gotten some of the trigger happiness out of his system. Like the first 3 threes he took, the first 2 were just like really not quality shots. It's like he was trying to make up for lost time, but he hit the third one, his only field goal of the night. Did drop a couple fouls later in the third quarter. But again, just great to have that dimension back. Great to have that back in your arsenal. And I think all of us are trying to figure out exactly kind of how Bud reintegrates him into the rotation. But it's definitely a weird look to be starting essentially your 2 best power forwards and then having your 2 traditional centers come off the bench, because we saw Serge Ibaka play in the first half and then not play at all in the second half. And so, we can talk about kind of what they sort of need to do from a rotational standpoint to kind of make all that make sense. But, look, I was concerned, is Brook Lopez going to be, how close is he going to be to the regular Brook Lopez we're used to? I thought this was encouraging. I think you have to think it's going to take a little while for him to get his timing on both ends back. But certainly, again, just getting through 15 minutes, get a win. He looked like, his old self, especially defensively at times. I thought that was obviously a huge step for him. And hopefully, to me, hopefully you can get him back into the starting lineup sooner rather than later, even if he's not playing 25, 28 minutes, just to kind of reset the rotation a little bit and rebalance the rotation a bit. And but we'll see. But again, just hey, you're just so happy to see him as even an option, as a name in the box score after so many months out.
Yeah, Bucks undefeated, 2-0 with Giannis, Khris, Jrue, and Brook Lopez in the lineup. And I had some pushback. I waffled on the podcast by myself last night, Frank, and had some pushback about the Ibaka stuff I was talking about, that what is this going to mean for him in the rotation? Well, Brook only played 15 minutes, and as you pointed to, Ibaka only played 7 minutes. And I think that he is probably the odd man out, particularly in a playoff rotation, when those guys, if Brook can get back up to mid-20s, then it's just going to be difficult to see where the minutes come. But we'll see what Bud does with that. But I spoke about Ibaka, and if you want a Ibaka winner, then go to BetOnline. .net because it's that time of year again in college basketball's tournament.
Was that a pun? You said that like it was a pun. I don't know if I got what you said, but go ahead, read the ad.
If you want to back a winner,
then, back a winner. Okay.
Yeah, then go to
Proceed.
betonline.net. It's the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for the scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. There's hockey, baseball back, by the way, all that kind of stuff. You can find at betonline.net as well. Favorite Vegas casino games are there as well. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. It's BetOnline where the game starts. Make sure you do check out the Locked On Now podcast as well. Get a wrap of the night's play. Hear about Jokic taking down Embiid. Hear about the Lakers stinking it up. That's all today on the Locked On Now podcast. After you're done with Locked On Bucks. Frank, where do you want to go now? Giannis and Gobert, what are you thinking?
Well, first, I want to give a shout out here. I was on the Toytonia World podcast recently.
Lovely.
Friend of the pod, Ben, aka David Dunn. And he has some really good merch. I mean, I do not endorse his takes on Khris Middleton or jerseys, but I think he's got some really nice merch. So I know people listening not on YouTube can't see, but I've got a pretty cool shirt that he hooked me up with for being on the pod recently. So I think this is like a Kanye West reference. I'm not a Kanye fan, but I think this like little deer guy with a Bucks shirt floating away with a Bucks and 6 mixtape. Anyway,
that's very nice.
Cool merch from him. Shout out to Ben for that. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You know, I think Bucks fans, you know, me included, right? I'm Giannis super fan / stat watcher. I think we had sort of on our card tonight. We were hoping for, I don't know, Embiid and Jokic to hold each other to like 15 points, and I don't know, maybe the Nuggets win in Philly or something like that. Embiid 34 points, ended up having a kind of bigger statistical game. Jokic a really good all around game, and they end up winning, obviously, which helps the Bucks put the Bucks back into the second seed. Going into this game, which again, I don't even know if we should be rooting for the second seed, given the specter of the Brooklyn Nets potentially being aligned to that seed. But who knows what's going to happen, whether they're actually going to be in the 7th seed, whether there's a chance that they could move up. I do not know.
The Bucks, just quickly, is your opinion the same as mine? Based on what we saw last year, no matter who it is, the Bucks aren't playing any shenanigans here. I expect they're just going to try and win every game.
I don't think so. I mean, look, Are the Bucks gonna potentially rest guys down the stretch, like in back-to-backs? Yeah, I think I don't think they're gonna, go all out to win as many games as possible. That would certainly be surprising given their MO the last couple of years. But that said, are they going to tank a game so that they can set up a different playoff opponent? That I would not expect, right? Because they didn't do it last year, right? When a lot of us thought that they'd be better off trying to avoid Miami. Next thing, a few months later, they're NBA champions. So. But coming into this game, I think, MVP, obviously you would have liked ESPN game. It would have been nice if Giannis had dropped, 45 on Rudy Gobert's head, shown why Rudy Gobert is not the defensive player of the year, and in the process, improved his own MVP standings. Don't know if that really happened tonight. I think probably the biggest winner of tonight in terms of defensive player of the year was Hassan Whiteside. Because for some reason, Hassan Whiteside gave Giannis all sorts of problems, but Rudy Gobert really didn't. Again, but these are how high the standards are for Giannis now. He puts up 30 points on 50% shooting, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, just 1 turnover, and we're like, yeah, but Giannis, it would have been nice if he dropped like 40. Like that would have been a really nice statement, dropping 40. But playing with foul trouble. That obviously was a factor, taking him out midway through the third quarter. And that was a really important stretch, right? Because the Bucks, again, third quarter, Jesus, man. None of us know that there is not some easy explanation for why this is happening. We've been talking about this for 2.5 months, probably since December. The team's been getting asked about this. There's been awareness of it. Tonight, they once again stink it up in the third quarter. They needed really like a big rally at the end of the third quarter to only lose the third quarter by 13 points, right? They were down by 10 at one point, and they were up 9 they were up 9 at halftime. They got outscored by 13, so they're down 4 going into the fourth quarter, and that took pretty much all of Jrue Holiday's heroics to trim it back down to that, because they were down by double digits at one point in the third quarter. Giannis only had 2 points. It was, they were just kind of, again, like settling for normal shots that they take, but they weren't really, I would say offensively, they weren't being super aggressive. And I thought the Jazz obviously just started making shots again, right? I mean, the Jazz are an explosive offense. They have been the last 2 years, and when they make threes, there's not a ton you can do to stop them. But thankfully, fourth quarter, I think Gobert came back in around maybe like the 8-minute mark, something like that. Giannis had 19 points at that moment, and rest of the way, the league's leading fourth quarter scorer scores another 11 points down the stretch. And again, I thought what we saw from Giannis, he had an early jump shot, but for the most part, he was not settling for jump shots tonight. Missed 2 threes, but one of them was, a Hail Mary, at the end of a quarter, which of course only Giannis is like one of the few players who still is willing to take those, and hurt his 3-point percentage. But I thought we saw from him, aggression. Like as soon as Gobert was in there, we saw him drive for like a running hook shot. Then the next play down, he got a rebound, drove the length of the floor, went right at Gobert. Gobert tries to foul him, tie him up, and Giannis still somehow scores for an and one, makes the free throw. And then we saw another hook shot down the stretch from him as well, and then 2 free throws to clinch it there at the very end. So, I'd say an under control performance from him. And again, this is where he's at, right? That felt like kind of an average game from him. I think it's interesting how much more he seems to shoot the hook shot against Rudy. It's like he knows that he can't just try to like bully him and dunk on him every time, although he does that from time to time too. But he shot a hook shot for his first basket of the game, and then in the fourth quarter we saw him drop in a couple more, which are obviously, we talk about it semi-regular, right? Like if he kind of gets comfortable with that shot and went to it more often, it's a devastating shot because nobody can stop it. If he's throwing it up there with that high release point, 8 to 10 foot hook shot. So yeah, did what needed to be done. And I'll be honest, I don't know how you felt about the rotation down the stretch. I thought it's worth discussing. Obviously, I think, they probably felt like Brook wasn't an option just given where he was minutes wise. Again, Bud never says if there's a minutes restriction, so we're not aware of whatever minutes restriction might have been there. But
15 feels
felt
right.
like, yeah, exactly. That felt like the upper end of what Brook Lopez was going to play in his first game back after such a long layoff. Could they have brought Serge Ibaka in? Yeah, they could have done that. But, the Jazz were playing small outside of Rudy. So basically it was, Rudy plus shooting essentially. And it was interesting. The Bucks, made the decision. Giannis playing with 4 fouls. And then he fouled Rudy on a play down low to get his 5th foul. They go with Giannis at center. And, I thought there, again, a couple of times Rudy was able to get the ball down low. They were able to get lobs over top. It's really hard for anybody to play drop against them. Giannis was no exception tonight, as good as he is defensively. I thought they looked more comfortable when Giannis was playing more aggressive. They got beat once when Giannis was really aggressive. But kind of like hedging and then recovering seemed like kind of the best answer against that, to kind of create a little bit of hesitation and confusion when Giannis was defending the pick and roll. And my other concern was just like, are they going to be able to box out Gobert and get enough rebounds, especially when Giannis is coming way out, hedging, and then trying to recover. And sometimes he's hedging, and that's creating chaos. And, they're then kicking the ball around the perimeter and leading to shots. And, Gobert was sometimes down there without necessarily a body to box him out. So I was definitely concerned that they were playing with fire, essentially playing small down the stretch. I mean, it was Khris at the 4, and then the other 3 guys on the floor were Jrue, Jevon Carter, and Wes Matthews. By the way, Wes Matthews, 2 3-pointers tonight, everybody. Release the doves that Wes Matthews had him 3.
He also hit one after a foul was called. I heard it on the net mic after the camera panned away. So back in form, Wes.
It's back. Hey, it's where he started his career in Utah. Yeah, so nice to see Wes see a few go down. And I thought that was obviously the versatility and just the doggedness doggedness of those three guys defensively on the wing was really important. And I mean, what an awesome vote of confidence from Bud to Jevon Carter that he's throwing Jevon Carter out there on a night when George Hill made his return, looked fine, like was not looking to shoot at all, but looked fine, right? We'll see. Obviously, he needs to get comfortable to get his rhythm back, but he had some options. He didn't have to go with that. He played Grayson Allen a fair bit in the fourth, but I think they obviously made the decision that they wanted to have better ball pressure, and that group of three obviously is very good at that. And so that was the closing group, and obviously credit to them. Not the biggest group, but they did what they needed to do. Jrue with a couple big plays defensively. There was one play it looked like Giannis blocked Mitchell. I think it was with like 50 seconds left, and then they took it away. It was no block. I saw the replay. It looked like Jrue actually might have blocked it, but then Jrue didn't get a block on it either. So I'm calling shenanigans on the Jazz scorers table for that one. But Jrue with 5 steals tonight, and he had that great pickpocket on Donovan Mitchell from behind with the grabbing it with his left hand. Obviously, look, there are times, I guess you notice, especially because Wes and Jevon Carter are, so relentless in the way they pressure on the perimeter. Like Jrue is not at, 100% Jrue in the regular season, but he does dial it up down the stretch. And obviously, we've seen this repeatedly now over the past weeks where the Bucks, again tonight, what they have like a 112 defensive rating, something like that. Not a game that you were going to write home about from like a defensive perspective, but down the stretch, they were able to have enough ball pressure, create some chaos. They did that a bunch in the second quarter when they made that run to take the lead. And again, I don't know exactly how they're going to sort all the rotation stuff out when push comes to shove, but this is a great time of year to start to get healthy. Give yourself, a few weeks here at the end of the season to kind of try some things out, get guys back into rhythm. Pat Connaughton was taking shots without a cast on, and he looks to be getting closer to return as well. And obviously seeing Brook and George back on the floor. I don't want to jinx anything, unfortunately DeAndre Bembry, the basketball gods took DeAndre Bembry's knee, I guess as some sort of punishment for these other guys getting healthy or something. But obviously a bunch of key guys now hopefully getting healthy and hopefully will stay healthy. And obviously, that's all you can kind of hope for, especially for a team that has been through the gauntlet previously, and we know what they can do in the playoffs.
You mentioned that clutch steal, and I was thinking about this. Out of all players, Jrue Holiday, out of current day players, probably has the best clutch steal highlight package. He just comes up. His ability to either poke the ball away to someone else, rip it out of someone's hands, jump, particularly on those passes under the basket, which was where it came tonight. He sort of just reaches around and somehow still controls the ball. But I just love steals, which is why I also love rockauto.com, where you can get all the steals you need. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why would you choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump, $353 from your usual chain store, $216 on Rock Auto. That is a steal. It's a family business as well, so you feel good about going there, and the prices are the same for an expert as they would be for someone like me. So go and explore the easy-to-use website today to find a solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. That's amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. You mentioned, speaking of Jrue Holiday, though, I mean, this guy really, over the last stretch here, all against good teams, has been Mr. Fourth Quarter. And I remembered that I tweeted, they had those 3 games, Miami, Chicago, Phoenix. He had the game winner against Miami. He had 15 points in the fourth quarter against Chicago, 17 points in the fourth quarter against Phoenix. He had another 12 in the fourth quarter here. And he's such a fascinating player because he goes through these stretches, and certainly this regular season he's gone through these stretches. Certainly in the playoffs last year he went through these stretches. But he never really seems to lose confidence about taking big shots and, quite honestly, tough shots. He hit one shot today, which was like from behind the backboard, which Khris Middleton earlier in the game flipped up a left-hand push shot from behind the backboard as well. Thanasis was great. Thanasis has never been more amazed. And his brother is Giannis. That's how stunned he was about these two shots right in front of the Bucks bench there. But I don't think we can speak enough. You already mentioned to it, but Jrue Holiday win these big games. We spoke about this schedule that they had, and I know they had a bit of a stinker against the Warriors the other night, but overall, with these 5 big games that they've had to so far be 4-1, I don't think you could have asked for much more. And you can pretty easily say, as good as Giannis has been, they might not win any of these games without Jrue Holiday and the way he's played in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I just keep thinking about the playoffs, and obviously Bucks have questions they have to answer around the closing rotation. The PJ Tucker absence is Wes Matthews the de facto kind of wing stopper guy, even though again he's different than PJ, doesn't play as big as PJ does, but is probably better playing down. Questions to be answered, right? Health, Brook, is Pat's jump shot going to be back when he returns from that hand injury? But I think if you're ever needing a dose of confidence, you're ever feeling a little bit skeptical about the Bucks, and I have my moments. Just think about how much Jrue Holiday struggled, through the playoffs last year, and how many games he had where he's just missing shots, missing stuff around the basket, right? And again, not to discount the defense he played, which was incredible, and some of the big games that he did have, right? Think about what he did when Giannis went down in the Atlanta series, the jump shots he hit in Game 7 in the fourth quarter against the Nets. Game 5 in Phoenix, he was incredible on both ends. But at the end of the day, what was he, like 40% field goals, 30% overall? I mean, it was bad. It was like, if the Bucks don't win a title, there would have been a lot of Drew Bledsoe discussion happening, right? And fortunately, we don't have to go down that road. But we know he's way better than what he showed. Again, defensively, of course, the energy, maybe that takes him out of it. It was interesting. He was on a JJ Redick's podcast a little while back, and they asked him a bit about having the confidence to take shots, and he kind of just said hey, my teammates get mad at me if I'm not aggressive, if I'm not looking for my shot. And I think it's just again, is that shocking? No, that seems very typical of the Bucks, that they would encourage one of their key guys to take big shots and look for a shot and play with confidence. That's again how they generally kind of operate. I say a guy like Bud, and most great offensive coaches are not known for telling guys not to shoot shots, right? Especially a guy like Jrue, who is a guy that can score 20 points a night, right? Again, you got to figure out how to get guys to take the right shots. But I think with Jrue, it's important he be aggressive, and there are times, absolutely, sometimes he gets loose with the ball, and some of the turnovers can look careless. That's where Khris and Jrue, I think that's the one area I think this year Khris and Jrue have both been worse, is that you look at the turnover numbers, they've been a little bit sketchier with that stuff. But and at times, when Jrue settles for little step back mid rangers when he doesn't have it, sometimes yeah, I don't know if we want that shot, right? Or if they're losing and he settles for a step back 2 and things like that. It's man, damn, that's a tough shot. But this was just another night where the shot making was just really impressive. And again, I don't think people around the league think of Jrue as a guy that can create offense or go be a bucket getter, but that's what he's done so often during these last 2 regular seasons, especially this season now in this last stretch of however many months it's been. His ability to just be all right, Khris and Giannis are resting, or things aren't working very well, and I'm bigger and stronger than whoever's guarding me, so I know I'm going to be able to get to the lane. If I want a 10-foot shot or a 5-foot shot, I can get to that. And just his touch around the basket, that arsenal of lefty righty stuff that he's got, it's just really impressive. And tonight was just another fun night to watch him operate. And again, they don't win this game if he doesn't. We talked about the huge fourth quarter he had, but they also don't win this game if he doesn't kind of stabilize things in the end of the third quarter, when stuff had really gone off the rails. Giannis gets the 4th foul, Bud puts Giannis on the bench, and you kind of wonder, are you saving Giannis for a fourth quarter when you're out of the game? And that was my concern. But credit to Jrue and the guys that were out there I think Wes Matthews hit a 3 at that point. Brook got to the line a couple times, and they were able to kind of claw their way back in and keep it respectable. And I will say this, Khris, well, first off, Khris hitting a lefty push shot from the left baseline, I have never seen him do that. But I think we have seen him, I don't say like he doesn't do it every game, but there's definitely probably 3 or 4 times I feel like in the last few months we've seen him drive to the basket, and if he's driving like sort of to his left and he's got a man kind of on his right, we've seen him like use that little like lefty push shot, and you almost don't even notice it, but it's like a little like weird little runner push shot thing that he makes he's surprisingly good at it. So but it looks very similar. You know how Brook Lopez practices those like super slow-mo little like 10-foot push shots with both hands? That I don't know. It's like Khris is stealing some of Brook's pregame mojo a little bit with those shots. But yeah, I mean, and we're not even really talking about Khris tonight, but you look at Khris again. He's obviously been playing a lot better over the past few months. Tonight, 23 points on 16 shots, 4 assists, steal, a block in 35 minutes, and again, like it just feels like so often night to night, your 3 best players are giving you big time production, and those guys tonight account for 82 points. That's big time, especially on a night where Bobby Portis really kind of struggled, and 7 points on 9 shots. Bobby's had a few of these lately where he just kind of is not a big factor. And yeah, they obviously needed those the big 3 to do what they did tonight.
Well, it's nice to see that they've been doing this in all these big games as well. Make sure you check out the Locked On NBA podcast, though, the national show for the network. They'll have you covered for everything that's happened in the NBA the night before. Before we wrap this up, Frank, it's approaching 1:30 a.m. I assume, surely, like your wife is just like, listen, man, can you just like, do you need to be podcasting at 1:30 a.m.? But anyway, that's a problem for you to deal with. But I just saw on Twitter before we started this, what player did you just tweet about, Frank? A name that I haven't thought about or saw or read for quite a while, but it was in relation to Jevon Carter, and I got a good chuckle. I got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah, somebody who was it? Let's see. Lee M at Bangos Bucks gave me the Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's a name I've not heard in a long time. GIF. My tweet was that Jevon Carter plays like Royale Ivy thought he played, or he I forget. I forget the exact phrase. Jevon Carter is what Royale Ivy thought Royale Ivy was. Yes, Royale Ivy. If people don't recall, he was like a combo guard, journeyman type guy. Who let me see the actual year that he played with the Bucks. He's now a coach somewhere, but he's a coach at Texas. He's I think an assistant at Texas. But yeah, he was like one of these guys who's like, I don't know if he actually like slapped the floor playing defense. I feel like he was that type of guy though, like would press you full court and would be like, he was like a total try hard type guy. But I just remember like when I would look at his numbers, it's like the Bucks I think were like worse with him on the floor, and they were bad defensively, and he just committed a lot of foul. Like he actually just like seemed to like foul a lot, and like wasn't actually like good defensively.
Liggins like?
Yeah, maybe a little DeAndre Liggins like. But yeah, so I just for some reason I had this just remembrance of Royal Ivy. He actually had 2 stints in Milwaukee, 07-08, played 75 games, 1,400 minutes. I was actually a career high in minutes that year. -9, 3 points per 100 worse. And then came back for 18 games in the 09-10 season. That was the Fear of the Deer run. Was he on the Fear of the Deer team at the end of that year? Maybe. He was a positive net guy that year, so I give him a little bit of credit. But yeah, total try hard. Jevon Carter. I mean, he deserves a ton of credit. Like,
yes.
He's. I mean, the 3-point shooting he will not continue to shoot 50% from 3, but
he hit a 3 tonight.
Hit another. That was a tough 3.
Rudy Gobert was right up in his face, and he's like, "I don't care. I'm shooting a rainbow over your head. Nothing but net." Jevon Carter. I agree. I'm just going to give him credit.
And the Bucks are up 2 with what was left. Like, was it 13 seconds left, something like 12 seconds left.
The
I
free
think it was
throws,
like
yeah.
12 or 13. Yeah.
12.7. Yeah.
And the Bucks, Khris and Jrue have the ball, each get touches in the backcourt. They skip it ahead to Giannis in kind of a 2-on-1 situation. And Giannis tries to throw a bounce pass that, if it was a good bounce pass, Jevon Carter might have had a layup, but it was not a good bounce pass. And it almost went over his head. He's not a tall man. And so then they get the foul on him. And I mean, I don't know, like, have I ever seen Jevon Carter shoot big free throws? No, I have not. I was a little bit like, well, okay, hopefully this works out well. He's an 80% career free throw shooter, but has Jevon Carter played, really meaningful late game NBA minutes with regularity? Like, probably not a whole lot. So credit to him. He knocked down both of the free throws that put it back to 4. And then I think that was right before the Jazz ran a great ATO to get Donovan Mitchell a wide open 3, which he missed, which was, I guess, sort of the fitting way for the Jazz night to end, because Donovan Mitchell, who I feel like we deserved, as Bucks fans, we deserved to see Donovan Mitchell have a 5 for 17 3-point shooting performance and a 10 for 32 shooting performance. He had 29 points, but was hyper inefficient in doing so. I feel like we've seen Donovan Mitchell have some like monster games against the Bucks where he just is pulling up from 3 and just kind of tearing your heart out. So I feel like this was kind of a cosmic mean regression game for Donovan Mitchell against the Bucks. And I mean, Mike Conley, who's had some rough games of late, he had 29 on 13 shots, 6 out of 9 from 3. So he was the guy who played really well. Gobert was good, 18 points on 6 of 8, 14 rebounds. But they lost his minutes, and thankfully Jordan Clarkson, who I also feel like has had some heat check games since he went to Utah. He was 3 out of 14, and I thought, Carter, Wes Matthews, Jrue, I thought they did a really nice job of just pressuring Jordan Clarkson, and he takes a lot of tough shots regardless. But tonight, obviously, they were not going in. So, I thought Mike Conley probably had the easiest night in terms of the shots he was getting. Again, maybe they could have done a little bit better there, but overall, thought the Bucks did a nice job. And I don't know what the Jazz were in the first quarter. I know they hit 10 threes. I don't know if it was 10 for 15 or what the number was, but they end at 17 of 48. So I'll just guess if they were 10 for 15, then they finished 7 of 33 to end the game. So just a reminder, I mean, teams shoot so many threes now, like you get the mean reversion usually kicks in, right? If teams have a crazy hot start to a game, and the fact that the Bucks hung in there and were also making some threes, and after a quarter they were only down 2. I felt pretty good actually at that point, because it was just like, all right, Jazz, I mean, they're not gonna famous last words, but they're not going to make 43s tonight, right? So obviously that kind of bent back in the Bucks' favor. And end of the day, Bucks only took 31 threes, but 12 out of 31, 39%, and made 5 more free throws than the Jazz as well. So obviously they were able to claw back a bunch of those. And interestingly, the teams are tied 38-38 in the paint, but the area that the Bucks won resoundingly was the mid-range, which I guess we can thank Jrue Holiday and Khris Middleton for 18-2 from the mid-range. So that was important. And again, Saturday, the thing that really jumped out at me about Saturday, because the Warriors and Bucks were pretty much even in terms of, I think the Warriors only had like one more 3-point make than the Bucks for all the Klay Thompson highlights. Steph obviously did basically nothing, but Bucks just got killed on the boards, right? By a Warriors team that is not big, right? They got so many offensive rebounds, even on the rare times when they missed. I thought the Bucks just looked a step slow all night. And again tonight, Jazz 13 offensive rebounds, 27% offensive rebound rate versus 16% for the Bucks. So better work on the glass by the Jazz than the Bucks tonight. But thankfully they were able to kind of weather that and obviously come out on the other side with a very nice win. And we'll see. These last 2 games on the road trip are definitely not definitely easier games, you would say, on paper than the first 2 in Sacramento. The Dante DiVincenzo revenge game. He had 15 points against the Bulls tonight in a win. So Dante, he was shooting 33% in Sacramento coming into this game, but obviously nice. again, if you had told me you were going to split the first two in Golden State and Utah, I would have said, sure, right? Like take that. And then now obviously you see if you can try to get these next two in Sacramento and Minnesota. And obviously Minnesota is a much better team this year, and Karl Towns just went for 60 tonight. So so we'll see. But leaves the Bucks in pretty solid shape, and with the Sixers losing again tonight, Bucks are only 2 losses back of the Heat, only 2 games back, 45-24 for the Heat versus 43-26 for the Bucks. Going to be really difficult to catch the Heat, I think, just given the Bucks' strength of schedule. But the interesting thing is, I mean, the Bucks' strength of schedule has been going down because of some of the difficult teams they've been playing. So they no longer have the most difficult strength of schedule in the league. So so again, not that they have an easy way the rest of the way. A lot of road games still on the docket, but again, if you can win these last 2 games on the road, or even honestly, even if you go 1-1, not the end of the world. Big thing I think macro wise is just try to play better basketball, reintegrate Brook Lopez, and stay healthy.
Well, I guess they've won 7 of their last 8 now, so they've put themselves in at the front of this big pack anyway. But I think more than anything, I was watching the Bucks today, and I was seeing all those guys out on the floor. I was seeing Pat Connaughton and remembering it's just a hand. It's just a hand. He's fine. He's going to be back on the floor here in the next week or so. So I was excited about that. It was cool to see everyone back there, seeing Brook Lopez play at all. Like I said last night, I think he's been a guy that, in the bigger picture, national media probably maybe don't have as good an understanding of how important he is to this team. We've both said, Frank, that if he doesn't come back, we think they would struggle to win a title. So it was just good to see him back. And some would say earlier than we expected. I thought it might be closer to the end of this month. So it was good to see him out there tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, and then we'll lead into this Dante DiVincenzo revenge game in Sacramento. And shout out to our friend Mitchell Maurer, Sacramento local now. Maybe he'll be at the game. I don't know. We haven't asked him if he's going, but we'll see. But we'll be back tomorrow. Maybe I need to get Mitchell, the local, on the podcast and just get the vibe around Dante and the streets of Sacramento. Anyway, let's leave it there.
I mean, Mitchell has 2 kids, but I'm sure he just does the man on the street thing in Sacramento, just walking up to people, just asking them, and trying to figure out what, hey, Dante DiVincenzo, right? What's your take? So
maybe we can get him to do that tomorrow and then put it on the pod. Anyway, let's wrap it up. The Bucks win. They beat the Jazz. First time in 750 years, as I mentioned at the start of the pod. We'll be back tomorrow for Frank and myself. Take it easy.